Yes, everybody, and welcome back to TarHeelIllustrated.com. I'm Jacob Turner, and still in Allen Fieldhouse. This video is coming out on Sunday. AJ is not in Allen Fieldhouse on Sunday, but by the time this video comes out, you might think he still is. Our very own publisher, Andrew Jones. And AJ, as promised, we're here to do we mentioned our Three Things post-game podcast. If you haven't seen that, go check it out after this one, of course. You're already here. Stay here and watch it. But we mentioned in our Three Things pod that we would come on here and do a little bit separate video. 2 positives, 2 concerns from Lawrence, Kansas, and really from Carolina's 92-89 loss to Kansas. And you can factor in the first game as well. At the win over Elon.
It partly factors in, yeah.
Yeah, partly factors in with some of the things we'll talk about, but all kind of starting from the game.
This game confirmed both.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
At this juncture, confirm both at this juncture. All 4 things, both concerns and both positives at this juncture.
It's our 4 things podcast here instead of 3 things. Can you put it that way too?
We just call it leftovers from Lawrence. How about that?
Yeah, we could have done 3 things for another hour. So we said, why not splice it into 2 videos? But AJ, let's start with the concerns. We'll start with that. So we end on a little more positive note, but let's start with the concerns. I think they're, early in the year, I think the concerns can be a little bit more top of mind than the positives are right now. And again, I can understand why for some reasons, but let's start with the front court. Overwhelmed in the first half against Kansas. Again, we talked about it in 3 things. Big 15-point deficit at Carolina in the first half. At halftime, didn't play well really across the board, but the front court was just bullied at times down there. And again, you're not going to play a guy like Hunter Dickinson every week, but still, it was a good barometer to kind of test against a really experienced big in him. And yeah, Carolina just looked a little bit overwhelmed at times in the first half. And you have a free throw stat that you're going to throw out here in a second, which I think is intriguing and kind of describes what we're talking about with maybe the lack of offense being run through the bigs and maybe the lack of physicality and aggression at times from the bigs with the lack of free throws that they've had. But I think that's the first concern with this team right now. It's been a talking point since the offseason. It's been a talking point, heck, since the Memphis exhibition game, really. And I think it's going to be something we're just going to have to continue to see develop, because that front court, again, a lot of inexperience there, a lot of guys stepping in new roles and some new faces in there as well. It's going to take time. I don't think it's necessarily a surprise we're having this conversation right now, but definitely a concern that, at least through 2 games.
Yeah, the main thing I want to focus on is the lack of offense, like the post offense. Mm-hmm. So far, there's no dump it into the post and let them go to work game. And people are concerned about that. And we'll go ahead and say, told you so, because all the people who, moaned about Armando, what's the world going to look like when Armando's not down there? Now, there are positives and there are negatives to that. Mm-hmm. Positives in meaning that the way they play is different. It might not be as conducive to having Armando there. Point is that you could dump it into Armando and get you offense, get you fouls, get bigs in foul trouble.
Yeah.
So in this game, and also the other night against Elon, there's not much of a dump it in the post and have a big go to work. It hasn't been that. Now, in fairness to Jalen Washington and Jay Witt and Van Allen Lubin, they went against a 7'4" guy who's pretty good defensively from Elon, and they went up against Hunter Dickinson in that crowd here today. So that's going to be difficult. That challenges you to have post offense, especially when you've got a Jalen Washington who's very comfortable facing the basket and not as comfortable with his back to the basket, and must learn how to play like a 6'10" guy with a 7'4" wingspan on the lower block with his back to the basket. That's going to be an important development. He doesn't have to become Armando. He doesn't have to become Tyler Hansbrough or Tyler Zeller, who was calling the game tonight. But he has to be able to give them some offense there. He has to be able to give opposing defenses something to defend down there. I thought we saw a few times tonight, because it wasn't there, that when the drivers went into the lane, bigs were leaving a little quicker because there was almost no, I'm not going to say readiness for the ball, but it's as if getting a big the ball wasn't the first or second option in the mind of whoever was driving. We saw that as more of an option in the second half, and they scored some buckets. So the lack of getting conventional offense through the post is a very new thing for North Carolina. And to illustrate this, Jacob, with 13-16, I think it was, left in the game. Venel and Lubin went to the free throw line. Those were the first free throw attempts by a big man this year.
Wild stat.
And he made them.
Mm-hmm.
So how are they going to go about developing that? Now, minutes, get out there and play. They're not going to go against a 7-footer every week. I think Jalen Washington gained so much out of these two games. There were a lot of things you could look at from his game. You could say, well, I don't know if he's that guy. But understand, when I talked to him after Elon, he told me that he was angry at himself because he didn't take it to the 7-4 guy. He was kind of wigged out by the 7-4 guy. And he's like, there aren't many 7-4 guys out there. Well, now they go against 7-1, 23-year-old, who's highly accomplished, highly skilled, very smart player, and he's surrounded by studs. It was another huge task. So when they play American next week and they go to Hawaii and play them, Jalen might have some catch, turn, and score opportunities. They need to establish that in those games because they need to have that as part of their identity offensively. They just can't be three guards driving and scoring, driving and shooting, and the bigs occasionally step out and shoot threes. They got to be a lot more than that. We haven't seen a lot of that yet. And what's scary, if you're not a North Carolina fan, especially if you hate Carolina, is look how good they were in stretches tonight against a damn good team on their floor. And they didn't have that element. Now, they got some stuff from those guys, but it wasn't with that element. Mm-hmm. Imagine Jay Wash getting to the point where he must be defended on the lower block, but he can kick it out and step away and still has to be defended. His driving lanes are going to be there. Mm-hmm. So that's something, and I say Jay Wash mostly because he's the guy. He's got so much talent. He really does. He's the talent that was there before the injuries is still there, and he's gotten past all that. He says that he's gained everything back from the injuries, the bounce, the spring, the speed. He's faster. So that super talented guy that when he committed to Carolina, I remember how excited our message board was that he committed to Carolina. He's here. He's playing. He just needs to grow a lot of things into his game. And that is a concern because it's not there right now. And how long does it take? Mm-hmm. Does it actually happen? He's got a lot of finesse in his game. He needs a little bit more lunch pail. And the lunch pail will help him be a better scorer on the low post because so much of it is getting position, keeping position, getting your rear end down, making yourself available, catching, being strong with the ball and going up. Mm-hmm. We haven't seen that yet. Mm-hmm. And this team could play really good basketball for 5 months, but it won't win a national championship if it doesn't have an element of that.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that. So that's one of the concerns.
Yeah, you got to have it moving forward. And again, through 2 games, a lot of new faces kind of been into new positions, including Jalen Washington, new role and a role he hasn't, a reliance on him that he hasn't had to deal with at his time at Carolina yet because of a guy like Armando. So not a surprise, in my opinion, at least, that this is a talking point or a concern so far through 2 games, especially when your second game is at number 1 Kansas against a guy like Hunter Dickinson, who's almost my age. So, yeah, no surprise really. But let's see how it continues to play out.
Older.
That's crazy, man. It's like what we're talking about. It's unbelievable, really. Unbelievable, man. Some of the ages.
And by the way, he was a positive. I interrupted you during 3 things about Lubin, and you were about to mention something about Withers.
Yeah.
And Withers needs to make some post moves too, but I think his ability to shoot the 3 and roll to the rim and stuff like that's really, really strong on this team. But he's going to need to do some post moves too.
Yeah.
In situations. So, because he's going to play there some. So, but it primarily goes to Jay Wash because I think Jay Wash, when he gets that down, if he can stay out of foul trouble, he's a 32-minute guy.
Yeah, no doubt.
That's what Hubert wants and needs from him.
Yeah, I think a lot of Carolina's high-end potential this year will, like you mentioned, will rely a little bit on him taking that next step, which we'll see if it happens. But again, I think a concern right now through 2 games. Second concern here, AJ, and I don't, we don't like singling out individual players. Not something we really like to do on these kind of shows, but it's the elephant in the room right now, as you described it off camera. It's K. Tyson, 63 seconds against Kansas. Didn't play in the second half. You got freshmen coming in before him in the first half as well. And it's not just this game. I think this is another element, like I mentioned earlier. It's mainly this game, but you have to kind of look at the whole package so far, despite it being a pretty small sample size. Just hasn't really done a lot yet. Even going back to the exhibition games, doesn't quite look comfortable yet. It feels like to me that, and again, I don't want to assume things, but it feels like to me that maybe overthinking a little bit, not playing on instinct, and just he's a guy that's still getting used to playing in a jersey that has North
Great
Carolina.
Rod Baxley, folks.
I mentioned him not long ago on Three Things. If you guys,
Yeah, you got to mention on our Three Things. Jacob brought because of one of your tweets. It was about those bleachers up there. Yeah.
Fantastic pictures, by the way. You go check him out. Rod Baxley on Twitter. But yeah, I mean, K. Tyson, he's a guy that I think has probably got the most heat from Carolina fans as well so far. And again, I get it. New face coming to the program, hasn't done a lot yet. Again, I don't think he looks comfortable quite yet. Still very early in his North Carolina career. Still a lot of a process for him to go through. But I think it's safe to say through the exhibition games and through these 2 regular season games so far, Carolina needs a heck of a lot more from him too if they're going to, try to cut down the nets at the end of the year. I don't know if this team can necessarily do that if they're getting 63 seconds from a guy like him. He's got to do more. He needs to.
Drake Powell played the 4 a lot tonight, especially in the first half, and he plays hard, and he's going to be a really good player. And I thought there were times tonight he was good for stretches, but it's not ideal that if you're starting Withers at the 4, and I think it's going to be that way for a while, and Tyson was brought in here to shoot the ball and also get some rebounds from the 3 and the 4 spot, you need that. He's a 6'7", 6'8" guy. He's big. Drake is 6'6" and he's lean. Tyson has played college basketball. If you go back and watch the film from Butler or from Belmont, he would grab some pretty ferocious rebounds. All those things were there, and they're non-existent. It's like we talk election season. People talk about body doubles all the time, right? It's like there's a body double out there, and the guy they picked up and never played basketball before. And I'm not being overly critical. It's just I think that the confidence is shot. We saw against Elon the other night take a couple of shots from the right baseline, especially, and I'm looking over at it right now, where he shot it because, wait a minute, I was brought in to shoot, so I better shoot. There was nothing smooth or fluid or confident about it at all. Tonight, he comes in and he finds himself in the same situation, dribbles in. They took away the 3. He takes a couple dribbles. It's like he wanted to get rid of it. And so, what the hell, I got to shoot. And he airballed the shot. They go down on the other end, right in front of where I'm sitting right now. And he goes very slowly underneath the screen and out at the shooter. And the shooter hits a 3. The next possession is a dead ball and he comes out. 63 seconds, didn't get back in. I'd said all along, I said this when we did the 3 things after Memphis, or maybe I did it by myself that night, but we've talked about it. And I've thought that, especially once I saw him play, that his biggest adjustment is learning how to play with these guys. Yeah. It's not, I don't think playing against Kansas was the issue. I think the issue is playing with these guys, with this kind of talent and figuring out how he fits and where he fits. And right now, it doesn't look like there's any confidence that he fits at all. Andrew Carter's walking by. It's a star-studded cast. We had Rod Baxley, now Andrew. Hubert likes basketball. God bless Hubert. Andrew's here working on it. By the way, you got to read his story in the News and Observer from Friday. He and Robert Wilt, great photographer from the NNO, went to Dean's hometown. They went to Dean's house.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool.
School. The photo gallery is incredible. Andrew does amazing work, stuff like that, and try to get Hubert to talk about all the greatness of all this stuff here, and Hubert wasn't going there because Hubert
laser focused.
Rhino horn, baby. Rhino horn hoops. But Cade needs to play like 25 minutes against American and just hit shots. And Hubert needs, because this team is not going to be what it can be without him being something of what everyone thought they were getting. Because he was a really good player at Belmont. All the transfer services, I would say recruiting services, but they're transfers now. He was rated in the top 5 of best transfers in the country on every service I saw. Yeah. And he was rated 1 on a couple, 2 on a couple, 3 on a couple. So he's lost out there. He knows he is. I looked at him over on the bench a couple of times. I'm like, what's going through his head? He wants to win and all, but he came here to play and contribute. And you're right. You mentioned they got the freshman went in before him. And then he went in, and it's like, someone said the baseline is his kryptonite. It's not supposed to be, and it wasn't at Belmont.
Mm-hmm.
So they need to get him going. If Jay Wash can become a pretty solid score on the low block and a half-court offense guy, and Cade Tyson figures things out, and if he's half of what people hoped he would be at this point, and everything else is kind of what it is, just progressively gets better, so that's a chance to be a really, 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 really good team.
Yeah.
But those are two pieces, and Tyson in particular, they brought him in to score.
Mm-hmm.
He's a 45% three-point shooter, and he shot 2 air balls this season and had a shot blocked, and I don't think he's attempted more than about 7 shots.
Yeah, it's safe to say right now it's all up here, I think, with Cade Tyson. Human nature. We talk about it all the time. We talk about a process that comes with it. But
a coach needs to practice is part of it, but a kid's got to see it in the game. And teammates have to trust them, too. That's why the American game, I know Hubert coaches every game, win that game and all that, but he's got to look at the rest of the season. And then they go on that stretch where they go to Hawaii, play 4 games there. They come back, play Alabama, and they got Georgia Tech. You got UCLA sprinkled in there in Florida. You got to use a game like American U to try to get him going.
Mm-hmm.
Try to get him going. Sometimes managers will put a reserve, put him in the lineup for 2 or 3 straight days, just get him going.
Yeah,
because he needs to see a couple of hits. Because if he sits for 5 days, you don't want to go in 2 weeks without a hit.
Yeah.
So he needs to see the ball go through the basket, and it would be as helpful against American for his mind as it would have been tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Still a lot to be desired from him, but again, I think it's too early to just say, oh, he's not going to work out here. I think I have a vision in my head of us doing 3 things after a game in the not too distant future where we talk about Cade Tyson have a really positive performance. So I think it's coming, but we haven't seen it yet.
It would be a complete departure from what I thought against Memphis in the second half. He got more comfortable. He drove. He scored 9 points, had 9 rebounds or 8 rebounds that game. So I think the guy's there. He's just kind of shriveled up right now. Someone needs to put some water on. Those things you put with the sponges as a kid, you put them in the tub and they're tiny and they kind of expand. Someone needs to put some water on him to expand him. So the Cade Tyson that everybody knows that he should be shows up.
Yeah, so like it needs a little arm around the shoulder, man. Relax, play your game. You're here for a reason. Go out and show what you can do. And again, only 2 games, but a lot to be desired so far. Let's focus on a couple positives before we head out of here. 3-guard lineup, I think, has been a positive this season. There were some concerns about it from fans kind of coming, Carolina's too small. We need an 8-footer down there to win anything. But I think the 3-guard lineup so far has been positive. I think one of the reasons is you look at 10 for 36 from that lineup against Kansas, only 2 for 13 from 3, but Carolina only loses by 3 at the number 1 team in the country's building. Again, I think that's a positive. I like what I've seen from this so far. It wasn't a great shooting night from any of them really, but the fact that they can have a poor shooting night like that as a collective and the team can still battle and almost beat a team like Kansas up by 4 late in that game, that for me is a positive. So, and even adding to that 3-guard lineup aspect, I love what they can do in transition. I think they're so difficult to defend in transition with Cadeau's passing ability, with RJ's ability to just fly up and down the court and get to the rack. And then, we're not even talking about a guy like Seth Trimble, whose athleticism is through the roof. 19 points again from him and another start. So, yeah, I think the 3-guard lineup right now has been a positive. And again, I think the main focus here is the fact that they can not shoot well and still compete with, the best team in the country on paper right now, at least.
His hang time when he scored over Dickinson in the first half and drew a foul was insane.
Oh, he's so athletic, man.
And he's learning to play with that athleticism. He's learning. See you guys. We got more star power. DTH walking by. Safe travels, guys. Unbelievable. See how
everybody's making an appearance tonight.
Everyone's leaving too, and I'm still here. As usual. The guards, I don't know if any other team in the country has 3 guys that can do what they do and can score in the lane like those 3 can. And, is there concern about RJ maybe not shooting well the first 2 games? I don't think so. It's 2 games. They won one, and they damn near won this one without it. I think he's learning to play with a completely different Seth out there. It's not Harrison. Harrison was a catch the ball, swing the ball guy, and RJ got a lot of threes that way. Seth is a catch the ball. Okay, my hair is on fire. It's ablaze, and I'm running in here. I'm going to the basket. I'm gonna do a highlight thing, because he doesn't do it because he wants to be the highlight guy. He does it because it's a natural part of his game. So you have to learn to play with that when you're a teammate. But I love the fact that they were terrible in the first half in many ways, but I like the fact that they were aggressive and attacked. It just wasn't good. But I like the intent. They kept doing it in the second half. Collectively, they didn't have a great shooting game, but it didn't faze them. They basically became the enforcers and the dictators in the second half in Allen Fieldhouse against a veteran backcourt and a very talented team. They became the enforcer. And I think that's an amazingly positive sign, because that trio is going to go into a lot of buildings this year and win games. And then if you're able to get the stuff we talked about on the two concerns, if that comes together a little bit, this is a whole team. It becomes a pretty complete team. It's not right now, but those three guards are going to win a ton of games for them. And I do like the fact that when they went in the lane, they weren't always looking to score right away. There were some dumps. There was a lot more dumps in the second half, where they're able to dish the ball off, dump it off to somebody, find other people. A couple of times, and when RJ was younger, he would have shot the ball at the basket a couple of times the other night, and he did it tonight, where he just kept it, went through the baseline, under the basket, kicked it out to somebody. One time against Elon, he dribbled it out, turned and shot and hit a three late in the game. But other times that game in here, he found somebody. I think Withers ended up getting a three off one of those. He may have kicked it out to Trimble, and he swung to the corner to Withers when he hit that parade of threes there for about 5 minutes. So they have a really, really good back. Elliot Cadeau is an NBA player.
Yeah, he's good, man. He's really fun to watch.
He is absolutely fantastic to watch. And Georgia Tech had Lethal Weapon 3 in 1990 when they went to the Final Four.
What a name, man. What a name.
Brian Oliver, Kenny Anderson, and Dennis Scott. Scott was a forward, but he was a 3. And they were attack, and then they would kick out to Scotty. He wasn't as much of a driver, but those 3 guys with solid dudes up front went to the Final Four. And this team has more talent in the other spots.
Yeah.
They don't have Kenny Anderson, let's be honest there. Dennis Scott played forever in the NBA, but comparatively speaking to college basketball then, compared to the way it is now, Carolina has an element of that. They have a Lethal Weapon 3 to a degree.
Yeah. It's a fantastic name.
And it's going to stay with them the rest of the year. This is what they have, and they will have it all year. They won't always play real well, but they have it every game the rest of the season. It's an absolute.
Yeah, no doubt. Last thing, second positive in this one before we head out, and even kind of building off that a little bit. A lot of chatters being people kind of wondering where the tenacity, the fight that last year's team had that came a lot through guys like Harrison Ingram and Cormac Ryan was going to come from in this team. Well, it happened tonight in Kansas at Allen Fieldhouse. We saw that. And again, I think that's the second biggest positive from tonight. Came from guys like you just mentioned, RJ and Trimble and Cadeau. And I think it was all kind of illustrated in that second half comeback. So leaving this game, you're like, okay, despite the loss, despite the poor first half, this team has fight. You can't doubt that. This team has the ability to bounce back. This team has the ability to make adjustments at halftime and come out and play better basketball. So I think that has to be the last positive from tonight. It's a good thing going into the rest of the year.
Yeah, one of the most consistent questions I got all off season when I would run into people, neighbors, a lot of neighbors are big Carolina fans, is, where are they going to find that edge that Harrison and Cormac gave them? And it was a great question. And I saw from Seth in Memphis that there was some edginess to him. And I've always thought that Withers had it, but he played most of last season not super confident, not super comfortable, and we didn't see it come out until the end. And then he had to deal with that shot against Alabama, which he's talked about with me twice now. He brought it up tonight about social media. But he has an edge, too. He plays with an edge. He's a guy that would have been a really good football player. I think he wants to have contact. He doesn't want to have a game in which there's no contact. I think Seth has so much fire in how he plays the game that he's got that too. He's a yeller. He's a cusser. Withers is a cusser. You need guys like that. And I'll tell you what, I thought Elliot Cadeau played his rear end off tonight. And whereas last year he looked like a kid sometimes, looked like a freshman, he doesn't look like that now. There is a lot of man going on there, and I thought the toughness he played with tonight is part of this as well. Who's gathering them? When there's a couple times the refs had to come over and look at they had to confer about something, or they had to look at the monitor or something like that. Who's gathering them to get together? It's Elliott, and he's a little bit louder, but there's a toughness. The way he's defending, he got a foul caught on him defending a ball handler late in the game on the baseline where it was beautiful defense. A long time ago, Carolina would invite you to sort of get beat on the baseline. They'd invite the trap just outside the free throw lane where you have two guys in the baseline, and then behind the offensive player was out of bounds. Mm-hmm. So it was Dean Smith basketball one-on-one defense. They would kill people at that. It's not played that way as much anymore. And Elliott was guarding the dribble, and it was high-level stuff. He got a foul called on him, which I think is one of those deals where if that happens 50 more times this year, he'll get a foul call about 20 times, 19, 20 times. It was physical defense that he didn't play last year. He played a little bit more of it late in the year, but he didn't play it. And when I asked him, a month ago about his game, about what are some areas people are going to see it's different, he said, I'm a much better defensive player. I'm more physical. I can handle the drive better. Mm-hmm. We've seen that. So it's going to be more collective. Harrison and Cormac were the guys that would just take the Roman candle out and say, okay. I think it's going to be more spread out with these guys, but I see developing as long as Jalen Withers plays well. He's one of them. And it's going to be Seth Trimble all year, too. Seth's just got that little wire in him. And we're seeing some from Elliott. Mm-hmm. May not say a whole lot, but guys are going to see him. He was playing his rear end off when that thing was at 20.
I know.
He played as if he had no clue what the score was. So I'm not saying the other guys didn't, but his play popped out to me. Mm-hmm. So I think they're going to be fine in that area. I don't think that's a concern anymore.
Yeah.
So the absolutes are those three guards are going to give them a chance to win every time they step on the floor. Mm-hmm. That's an absolute. And the other absolute positive that I totally take from tonight, because we saw it, proof's in the pudding, is that they've got what it takes to get a little bit nasty out there and have the mental grit to come back in a difficult situation. They have that moving forward as well.
Yeah, couldn't agree more, AJ. A quick little podcast right there. Couple concerns, couple positive for the Tar Heels after 2 games, and a lot of it obviously judging off the 3-point loss to Kansas. Let's go ahead and get out of here, AJ. We've been recording for over an hour now, believe it or not, in total. Hour 7 in total. We've been on here for a while.
Brian Malcolm probably think I got abducted by aliens.
Yeah. I think you got lost in one of them cornfields.
Because isn't it places like Kansas where nobody exists, where some guy driving in the middle of the night gets abducted by aliens?
Oh, that's fantastic, man. He probably has no idea where you're at right now. He might be getting a little concerned. Well, I'll let you go so you can go find Bryant. Make sure you hadn't left yet. But I've been Jacob Turner. He's been Andrew Jones. Another Tar Heel Illustrated podcast or daily drop. I don't know what we're going to call this. We'll see what happens, man. We'll figure that out.
Special. How about it's not 3 things extra.
Yeah, the 4 things to four concern. We'll figure out what the heck we're going to call it, man. It's
leftovers
too late
from
to think about it. Yeah. Too late for me to.
I got to go write.
Yeah, man. Yeah, you do. You got plenty of writing. It even started.
Only how it happened is posted as far as written stuff, and that's not really like an article. So
yeah, I got to go get 3 things out too.
Inside the game, I've got my column, and I've got a sidebar to write tonight, and I'll probably write another sidebar in the airport tomorrow, flying back.
Grinding, man. Absolutely grinding. I got to go get 3 things edited too. Might be some people staying up waiting and wondering where the heck it is. Probably not many, but there might be a couple.
They tweeted at us already. Where's 3 things? I'm kidding. One guy actually does it, and I think it's funny, and I'm so grateful that he likes it.
Yeah, appreciate people watching, man. We appreciate that.
I didn't mean to mock him like that. It's not mocking. It was more in fun because I love that. Yeah, I look forward to it. When I know it's running late, I look forward to that tweet.
I mean, I get it. I got my things that I wait for. Like I've said, I'm a massive Manchester United fan. I watch the same people after every game, so I completely understand it, man. So, yeah, when we go ahead and get out of here so I can go upload that. And, yeah, guys, appreciate you guys watching as always. Make sure you like, share, subscribe. Hit the notification bell, too. Keep it locked to TarIllustrated.com. Come on over and sign up for $8.33 a month. Appreciate y'all watching as always. Thanks. And, yeah, we'll see y'all next time. Thanks.